Okay, so it's about making recommendations on each of the fitness tests, the data you've got collected. So you've got some strengths. So power is a strength. Why is it a strength? But also, how can you help maintain that strength and potentially develop that strength? That's what you need to talk about here. This is potentially a weakness. So the strength grip dynamometer test was a weakness of your client. Why is it a weakness? What recommendations can you make to develop your client's score in the future? So what would you expect them to do? Okay, so for example, here we've got the power vertical jump. This is a strength because my client needs to maintain this in order for her to constantly improve her performance. She can do this by including power training into her training, which she carries out by doing plyometric drills, which involve quick, powerful movements that include various different types of jumping. Furthermore, power interlinks with many other components of fitness, therefore improving strength, flexibility, excess body fat. So it has a knock-on effect on those things. Will allow the athlete to improve her power, therefore allowing her to withstand full games of netball. That's the kind of expectation at this level. So that's the recommendation. So why is it a strength? How can you maintain and develop that strength? Why is it a weakness? How can you develop that weakness and improve it with specific suggestions, what types of training, etc. If we look at this bit here, so recommendations, you should put a plan together for your client. So you look at your test results and you think, right, okay, what would I do on a weekly basis to develop them? So here, for instance, the client must do a 10-minute light jog around the sports hall for 5 minutes, or on a running machine, stretching mainly the calves. This should include the gastrocnemius stretch as well as sitting calf stretches, each to be done and held for 10 seconds. The main session is a Cooper run, and it has a positive impact on developing your cardiovascular fitness. And then the cool down, what you expect them to do. Again, think about what you do with the Tuesday warm up, cool down, a main session, cool down. So what are you going to do? What trainings or training plan are you going to do to develop your clients' areas for improvement in relation to the scores they've got? So if they've got a weak score on the sit and reach test, the main session might be some kind of yoga, lower back exercises and hamstring stretches, because that's relevant to improving them. Okay, but you need to give the specifics. And then when we get onto this last bit, recommendations for future activity should link to your training plan above. So frequency, how often, for instance, if they've got, if you've planned for them to do flexibility, how often should they do that? How many times per week? Why do they need to do that per week? Why do they need to do that many sessions per week in order to develop that area? What's the intensity that they'd be working at, and why do they need to work at that intensity to develop that area and their fitness testing score? How long, what time should they be doing it for, and why should they do it for that time? For instance, if it's stretching, you need to give specifics on the amount of time they stretch, but not only the amount of time they hold the stretch for, but how many times per week in terms of the amount of time in the session. So is it a 60-minute session? Is it 20-minute session? You need to tell me that. And then you need to tell me the types of training that's going to take place. So for instance, if again we're thinking about the sit and reach test, it might be Pilates, yoga, and some PNF stretching. So you need to give me the specific types of training that they do to be able to think about why it's going to develop them. Okay, you must make sure in this section here that you justify each of your decisions. So you argue why you're doing those selected things to improve your client.